Afternoon, everyone. My goodness, so excited to be here with you guys. I think last time I did anything like this was in March 2020. And it's good to be back and see everyone in real life. This is happening, we're doing this. Really energized to be here with you all. So, Crista Buznea from Ecologi. I'm a sustainability storyteller, and us sustainability storytellers say between climate scientists and those amazing designers and creatives that can bring these stories to life. And that's what I hope to do here today. I hope to connect with you guys and debunk some of those trickier concepts that we hear and some of that jargon that we hear a lot nowadays. So, to kick off, Sir David Attenborough said a couple of years ago, saving our planet is now a communications challenge. And I had two thoughts when I first heard this. First, I was like, damn right, Sir David Attenborough. It is the world's greatest communication challenge, but with us communicators, we've got this. We've got the tools, we've got the creatives, we're going to tell these stories, we're going to change the world. That was my first thought. Now, my second thought was, oh my God, that's so much pressure. That is a lot of pressure. But I'm an optimist, and I think we can do this. And I'm down for that challenge, and I think so many of you here today that have turned up are down for this challenge as well. So, before we kick off, I wanted to have a bit of quality time with you guys. I wanted to share some of the research that we did at Ecologi a few months ago. We did this with businesses, and I want to see if that data still stacks up. Are we down for that, for a little short 3-question Q&A? Okay, I see smiles. I'll take them. I'll take anything that I can get. So, first question, who here is a business, or if you're a consultant, you're working with businesses that wants to be greener, but doesn't know where to start? Hand up, hands up. Okay, I see a few hands. Okay, okay, a little wave from there. I like that. Okay, second question. What about if you're a business and you think governments should be doing more to support businesses to achieve sustainability initiatives? Okay, I see even more hands going up. Okay. Onus is on the government, okay. Third question, this is a bit of a dramatic one. So, who here believes it's too late to reverse climate change? Be honest. Okay, a few of you. I like that we have some optimists. My people, my people. Okay, so here are the results. So, 8 in 10 businesses want to be greener, but don't know where to start. And we're going to talk today about a few of the resources that we have to get them started today. This session is all about taking that first step, right? 83% think that the government needs to be doing more to support businesses in their sustainability journeys. Nearly a quarter have a sustainability officer in place to support on that mission, but the reality is that a small business can't necessarily afford to have a sustainability officer in place. 3 in 10 admit that their business ought to be more sustainable than it currently is, and 31% said that actually the pandemic got in the way of them making change. Pandemic, big blocker, who would have thought it, okay? And a third are planning to make change over the next 6 months, which is really good to hear. Now, 56% believe it's too late to reverse climate change. And I'm in that 44% bracket, and I think, judging by quite a lot of hands up earlier, you are in that bracket with me as well. And I want to tell you why I have hope, because I have bucket loads of it. So we know that there are 5.4 billion people in the world that are passionate and care about climate change. 5.4 billion, huge number. And then from that, 1 billion people can afford 10 pounds or $10 a month. Again, that just shows the possibility of investing in climate action. And at Ecologi, this data helped us launch Ecologi a few years ago. And ever since then, we've amassed about 40,000 members across our community. And we've worked out actually that we only need 231 million to reduce 50% of global emissions by 2040. So if we bring everyone together, if we bring millions of people together towards collective action, we can achieve this objective. So that's how we establish our vision at Ecologi. We've taken it on to reduce 50% of global emissions by 2040 with our community. And it started out like this, day dot in 2019 with Elliot, Alex, and Lucy at the kitchen table. And then this is where we are today. We have a really big team and really big community that we've grown. A few of us are in the room today, and we have the stand just outside. And the mission's still the same, to reduce 50% of global emissions, but just in a nutshell, we're a social enterprise focused on climate action. To date, we've worked with about 14,000 businesses, including your AXAs, some Vodafone customers, as well as BBC, and a whole bunch of amazing SMEs that we're going to talk a bit more about later on. We have been B Corp certified since December last year, and we're actually in the top 5% of B Corps for the environment and social governance. We're very proud of that, and I know you've heard about B Corps a lot today. We're guided by an amazing climate committee of scientists. This is very, very important to us. And actually, we might have Nicoletta in the room here from oh, there we go, Nicoletta from our climate committee. We actually work together on my course with the Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership, and we have other scientists from Project Drawdown. All of that expertise is infused in the work that we do at Ecologi. And then beyond that, over the past 3 years, we've had over 80 climate projects that our community have supported. Those 80 climate projects have achieved an over 2 million tons of carbon avoidance, and we've planted over 47 million trees. And going back to my point around optimism, those 2 million tons that we've achieved to date have already achieved national scale. So they account for 6.4% of London's annual emissions. If we think about that scaled up year after year, we can achieve that vision of reducing 50% of global emissions. That's why I have that optimism. Now, as part of that, we've heard so much over the past few years about carbon neutrality, net zero, science-based initiative, lots of jargon, right, that we hear about every day, lots of complex terms. And I'm here to debunk once and for all, this is my life's mission, to debunk the difference between carbon neutrality and net zero, because that difference has changed my life. So let's start with the ambition. Carbon neutrality allows for emissions to be created in the first place. It counts on you doing, as a business as usual. And then you are essentially encouraged to offset your emissions, and that's how you achieve carbon neutrality. For net zero, this is a more active goal. It involves you actually committing to a 90% reduction in your overall emissions. It's active. It takes time to achieve this. And I want to make a little analogy for this to kind of help remember it. So I really struggled sleeping last year. I went through a very tough period of not being able to sleep. I don't know if there are any parents in the audience who can't sleep. So I had lots of naps during the day. Every day I was kind of topping up that energy with naps. But then I was like, oh, I need to tackle this issue, you know? I need to start going to bed earlier, listening to some calming music before bed, maybe stop eating before bed. I started putting strategies together about how I can solve this long term and turn it into a lifestyle, which is a critical point. So that's kind of how carbon neutral and net zero are. Carbon neutral is important for right now. Net zero, you work towards the future. And the science-based target initiatives, the top climate scientists in the world that are gearing us for tackling the 1.5 degree and staying within that parameter, have said that carbon offsetting and carbon neutrality is a very important step as part of a net zero journey. So it shouldn't be disqualified, but net zero should be the target. So again, another difference, carbon neutrality, you can achieve it just for a product. You can achieve it just for your direct emissions. You don't have to look at all of your suppliers and your wider operations. Again, with net zero, you have to look at everything. You have to look at all of your direct emissions and indirect. Type of offsets. Carbon neutrality, you can use carbon avoidance projects that essentially help other countries decarbonize. We're talking here renewable energy projects like solar, wind, hydro. In countries, for example, our recent projects have been in Egypt or in Bolivia or in Bulgaria. These projects help other countries decarbonize right now. We're going through an energy crisis. funding other countries' renewable energy supply is critical. So again, important, with net zero, after you've achieved that 90% reduction, after you've done really, really hard work on that, you have 10% of emissions outstanding that you can compensate with carbon removal credits. These are more expensive projects. We're talking about £10 to £100 a ton. And they're projects that literally suck carbon out of the air. Think those big carbon capture machines. Carbon neutral credits, carbon offsets, they're a lot cheaper. You can get them anywhere from £3 to £10. Time frame. Again, carbon neutrality, you can achieve it today. Right now, it's a short-term goal. You can achieve it for a product. Net zero, it's something that you work towards and you strategize for 2020, 2050. 2020 will be going back in time. And again, by definition, carbon neutrality is about compensating. And net zero is about reducing emissions in line with this 1.5 degree target. So I want to go through this again for the rational brains that we have in the audience as well, with a little bit of graph. So if these are business as usual emissions, if over the last few years your emissions as a business have stagnated, or maybe they've gone a bit up with your growth, the path to net zero means a drastic 90% reduction in your emissions. These are your target emissions over the next few years. You can fund carbon avoidance to become carbon neutral over here. And by the way, if you want to maintain your carbon neutrality status, you have to do that calculation of your carbon footprint every single year, and then work towards net zero alongside that as well. Now, beyond that, once you've done all of that work on decarbonizing your emissions over here, you have 10% of emissions that can be balanced through carbon removals, carbon capture, and so on. So at Ecologi, this mission of net zero and decarbonizing is forefront of mind. There is no net zero standard for individuals, by the way. It just exists for businesses right now. But for me, this concept of, even as an individual, that I have to reduce 90% of my personal emissions changed my life. I started wearing clothes from charity shops. I gave up my car. I started taking trains abroad. And my life is so much more better because of that. And I know there's a tough road ahead for businesses, but there's a way to achieve significant milestones along the way. So for us, we're launching Ecologi Zero to help businesses, SMEs, calculate their emissions for free. This is a really big step for us because we know that big businesses, I come from big businesses, can afford to hire carbon accountants and specialists. SMEs don't. And a research from the British Business Bank said that actually SMEs are accountable for 50% of emissions in the UK. So they need supporting, they need a lot of support with tools that are free and accessible. We're launching Ecologi Zero in the next couple of months, and businesses will have access to that. Beyond that, businesses right now can fund carbon avoidance project to become carbon neutral with us. We have quite a few businesses that have done that. And carbon removals will be added to our portfolio in the next couple of months as well. So these tools exist, and they're at our fingertips. And what's really important on this pathway to net zero is literally that first step of committing. And if that happens, then everything else starts to fall into place. And the 7 steps on this pathway, like we've talked about before, are committing, calculating your emissions, setting a strategy and starting to target every single point of emission, those emissions hotspots that you have, start reducing, engaging your community and your colleagues and your partners to support you on this mission. And then the final 2 steps are removing those outstanding 10% emissions, and then certification. And for us, this launch of Ecologi Zero, we've been looking forward to it for a very long time. We have a long wait list and for SMEs, and we're hoping a few more of you will join as well. We wanted to launch a platform that allowed businesses to calculate their carbon footprint for free. This is critical. And again, you don't need any expertise or experience to make this happen. You can literally plug in your accounting software. We're launching with Zero with an X, but we're going to add QuickBooks as well, which are the top tools that are used by SMEs to do their financial accounting. And you're able to see your carbon hotspots. It takes out all of the guesswork and makes net zero viable. So it's going to take businesses through exactly all of those steps that we talked about. You're going to be able to see your full supply chain and your emissions that you have through your operations, and you're going to be able to have the full path to net zero. So the way I like to bring this to life is basically you're going to be able to see on a dashboard the emissions that you have. And for example, you'll be able to see, my web hosting provider produces X amount of tons. And we at Ecologi, I'm going to give an example of a partner that we have. We work with Crystal Hosting. They're a renewable energy web hosting supplier. Their emissions are going to be lower than the majority of web hosting suppliers. So you can make that switcheroo based on the information that you have. And you can do that with so many of your suppliers because you're going to be able to see their emissions. You're going to be able to target and look at those biggest areas of impact that you can have. And along the way, engagement is hugely important for us at Ecologi. So we're going to make it very easy for businesses to tell their story about their net zero journey. At the moment on our Ecologi platform, we have leaderboards because we like to celebrate the success that businesses have. We give badges to people to award their impact. You can earn sparkly trees if you refer other businesses, all sorts of crazy things, because we need that engagement to tell the story, and that's really important for businesses. And the last two steps, like I said, are removing and certifying. So at the moment, we're in private beta. We're testing just with a few hundred businesses, and we have a wait list of a few thousand businesses. But in the next couple of months, we'll be launching officially. And then we'll be adding other platforms like QuickBooks for SMEs. And beyond that, we'll start implementing the targeting tools as well that will help businesses achieve and implement that strategy towards net zero. So that's essentially Ecologi Zero and Net Zero. And since we talked about carbon neutrality and net zero, I also wanted to address the elephant in the room, greenwashing. So I know a lot of businesses are very scared of communicating their impact. There's a lot of criticism out there, and it's you know, a lot of the time you have to choose courage over comfort in the world to achieve impact. So I've put over here some tips to make these communications easier and to give you confidence that that you're on the right track with what you want to celebrate and about your business. So one key thing is use specific language. So we talked about the importance of understanding the difference between carbon neutrality and net zero. People are going to pick into that. Using the right language is critical. And supporting your claims with actual certification is even more powerful. We just heard about B Corp earlier. We have partners that celebrate that. Great, that's a certification. At Ecologi, we also have, for example, a partner called Lindemans, whose products are wines, very nice, and they've achieved carbon neutrality for their product, for their wines, certified by the Carbon Trust. So again, they can communicate about their status because they have certification for it. Beyond that, you can ensure that your marketing initiatives are supported by wider operational changes, that 90% that we talked about. So when you put a claim out, it's never just that claim. It's that claim and everything else that we're doing. So if you have a sustainability website or a sustainability landing page, I recommend you add all of your initiatives over there so that you always say to businesses, we've achieved this, but we're doing more. Check us out. There's a big journey that we're on right now. And being honest about your brand sustainability journey is really important. Highlight that this is a journey. And a lot of the time there's a desire to celebrate, which is great, but progress does not mean perfection. Right? So I have a few examples over here that really bring to life how we can communicate in a safer way. So there's a business, for example, that could say, since 1990, we've made a 93% reduction in carbon emissions used by our premises, but we're not going to stop there. Find out more on our website.com. We source 100% renewable electricity, enough to power everything in our operations from light bulbs to escalators. But we must do more. Find out more on our website.com. Becoming B Corp is a step in the right direction, but this is just a start. Find out how we're tackling the climate crisis on our website.com. And the last one, we're going to reach a net zero, we're working to reach net zero emissions. We know it's a long journey. We're committed to keep going. Find out what we're doing on our website.com. So again, that we're going to do more. We're not going to stop there. This is just the start. This is what helps protect you a lot of the times as a business. And the last couple of things that I want to showcase is how we do this at Ecologi. We work with 14,000 businesses, and one of the rules that we have is that we don't promote or shine a spotlight on businesses that don't showcase their wider environmental impact. And because of that, we've created places where on our profiles, this is Crystal Hosting, the renewable energy web hosting provider I was talking about earlier. They're doing amazing work. They've planted 1 million trees already. They've funded significant carbon avoidance projects. Their actual product runs on renewable energy, but look over here, we can see that they're working towards B Corp certification. We're celebrating that. And this is another example. Ethique, they're a beauty company from New Zealand, very similar to Lush Cosmetics here in the UK, doing incredible work, zero waste packaging, and they, on their profile over here, they've put their goals, and one of them is to save 500 million plastic bottles from landfill by 2030. So again, everything comes together, all of that sustainability story stays in one place, and you have other messages to back up what you're doing. So, thank you so much for your time. It's been really good to be here, and I hope that we have some questions in the next few minutes. You can find us at ecologi.com, and you can join the waitlist for Ecologi Zero on the website that you have right there. Thank you so much.
Yes, well, judging by the number of notes that were being scribbled down and the number of photos that were being taken of your screen there, I think there was a lot of interest there. So I've got a feeling we're going to have a fair number of questions here. We've got a few online as well. So when we do come around, if we can keep them quite punchy, that would be brilliant. So I'll just take a couple of questions from the online audience first. Thank you very much for sending them in. The first one is, how many companies have achieved net zero already?
Oh, wow. Very good question. So, none. Is the honest truth. I don't have obviously there's a lot that's happening in the business right now, but net zero, you've seen it, it's a long-term goal, and to achieve a 90% reduction of your business emissions like we talked about, that's a tall order. So a lot of businesses might claim that they've achieved net zero, but that's highly unlikely, and the Science Based Target Initiative's program, who's developing all of this, are going to allow for certification in the future and for an official protocol so that you have the green light that you've achieved net zero. And we're going to be doing that with Ecologi Zero as well, but it's very early days. Net zero has only really become a thing in the last few years. So it's an ever-evolving, ever-changing space, but highly unlikely that a business has achieved all of this already.
And we do have another one about net zero from the online audience. What is the base for the 90% reduction to achieve net zero? Is it your first calculation? What happens if your company grows?
Very good question. So you essentially have to create a baseline year. It usually happens across a period of 12 months. So you would commit to doing a calculation, doing a carbon footprint analysis, and you would essentially use that calculation as your baseline year, and then that becomes your tracker that you map your strategy against, and start reporting on that progress year after year.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the room? I thought we would. I thought we would. I think the gentleman in the sort of navy shirt was the first hand to go up. We'll get through as many of these as we can, but if we keep them quite short and sweet, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Just following on from that question, actually, I think it was kind of asking the question before about what happens if the company grows. So let's say you've got like a company with 1 employee, and then the next year they jump to 5, and the next year they jump to 10. Like what's your thoughts on quantifying net zero for those types of businesses?
Yeah, there's so many businesses out there that are exploding in size, and I think the net zero standard, like I said, it's ever changing and ever evolving. I think there will be situations where rebaselines occur. But at the moment, the net zero standard is focusing on specializing for different industries, and like I said, it's very, very early days, and something to be monitored, and we can learn from it.
Okay, I think it's right next to you, I believe our next question was. That's convenient, wasn't it?
Thanks for the talk. So my question is revolving, since you mentioned that you have worked with Project Drawdown, and I've been following their work as well, where they talk about getting to zero than net zero. So since you have been working with many businesses, do you see that businesses are thinking in terms of effectiveness rather efficiency, and are they setting goals to getting to zero rather than net zero? And is that is it a talk that's happening in businesses, or they just still want to do things right rather than doing right things?
Yeah. Very good question. It's interesting because to get to zero, it would be nearly impossible. Trees sometimes absorb carbon, sometimes they emit carbon. A zero carbon world, kind of a tall order, right? But to answer your questions, I think businesses are doing just that, are starting to look at where their impact is, and it may be coming from energy supply, it may be coming from business travel, it may be coming from waste. For us at Ecologi, we put our entire company through Ecologi Zero, and actually our biggest emission source was our marketing spend. Doing all our marketing activities, and those servers have an impact. So then you start looking at those hotspots of emissions, and you start thinking about what you can do to decarbonize them. So that's how you get to 80% and then 70% and then 60% over a period of years. Obviously, the more drastic the change, the better. But this is going to take time. And we should get comfortable with that. And that's where carbon neutrality does help alongside this, for you to essentially compensate by investing in climate action projects to decarbonize other parts of the world that are developing, whereas we in the UK, we're very, very well developed, and our emissions are starting to go down.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I was just referring to the mindset of it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think there was another question on the end there, was there? And do you have one more after that, just so I can line it up? There we go.
I'll try and make it super quick.
Thank you. No pressure.
Yeah. I was just going to say, obviously you did a really good job of communicating the brand and your value proposition, and the great work you're doing. I've just stepped into a Markham's role myself, so it's a bit of a selfish question. But in terms of, you communicating sort of Ecologi and what it does, where was your starting point in that journey?
Very good question. I mean, as a storyteller, what attracted me to Ecologi, I'm going to be honest, we have an amazing team that from the start, the product was brought to life. I struggled over many, many years with climate communications because they were so dry. And all of a sudden at Ecologi, there was a profile where I can click on my tree in a forest and I would see the actual tree. And then I could add my goals, and I could earn badges and communicate about my impact. And then, like I said, there were sparkly trees. There was so much richness. And then I could see the projects that were delivering impact. I started chasing the things that were lighting the fire in my belly and giving me, butterflies in my belly. Those are the stories that you start chasing and then you want to tell. Same with carbon neutral net zero. That 90% reference changed my life, absolutely. So that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is so good. How can we tell this in the best possible way?
Yeah.
So chase that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. We had just the one more question there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that great presentation. I just have a quick question on tree planting, which obviously is often quite a contentious part when it comes to offsetting, I think tree planting in particular. So just love to hear sort of how you guys have dealt with that, and especially from a sort of UK point of view, whether Ecologi is looking more into sort of pivoting away from that and looking more at peatland restoration, wetland restoration, and sort of how you think about nature-based solutions in that respect.
Thank you so much for asking that question. I love that question. So, highly controversial, tree planting, carbon offsetting. We actually did a blog post on this, and we talk about this a lot. Tree planting does not count as carbon offsetting. I'll say it every day for the rest of my life. So trees take time to grow. You plant one now, it'll take 10 years until they actually start absorbing carbon properly. So it's a tool, it's an investment in the future, but that carbon, you can't really account for it right now. You might be able to account for it in 10 years' time as part of carbon removal, if that certification for trees to become carbon removal tools starts existing. At the moment, we don't have that. So until then, trees are just an add-on. And then other carbon solutions are certified offsets, and at Ecologi, our offsets are certified by Verified Carbon Standard and Gold Standard. And that's where you essentially have specialists that go on the ground and actually make sure that the projects that claim to reduce a certain amount of carbon does that. And our members receive certificates to prove that that carbon has been reduced. And beyond that, actually, at Ecologi, we have a public impact ledger. You're able to see all sorts of things that happen behind the scenes. You're able to see all of the receipts that go out to our carbon offset suppliers. You're able to see our board meeting minutes. You're able to see so many things around our transparency, open door policy. But going back to that, thank you so much for asking that, because it happens quite a lot. A lot of businesses think they can just plant trees and that will count towards carbon neutrality claims and so on, and it can't.
Okay. Well, Crista, I'm afraid we have to wrap it there, but I'd like to speak, and hope I'm speaking for everyone in this room. You know, your passion and enthusiasm, it's genuinely inspiring. So a round of applause if you'd be so kind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.